Episode 8 ball of the Too Thick Pod, your home for all things sports, cards, and levity. I'm Jeremy, as joined as usual by Manny and Courtney. We have a special guest. There was a reference in there. I'm hoping somebody picked up on it.
Yes.
I'm curious in the comments if people were going to pick up on that because you've been talking about this situation, this particular thing that came out this week for probably like 5 months now. But we do have a special guest. We have Dennis. He owns a hobby store, I should say, Avery's Shoebox, and he runs a show every month in Lansing at the Lansing Mall. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No, Dennis, thank you for allowing us to be in Lansing at what is starting to become one of my favorite shows. The setup, the way people are treated, the amenities of having it inside a mall, which I had said a while back ago that the thought of going to a card show at a mall always seemed off to me until the first time I went there. And I'm like, wow, there's bathrooms readily available. There's ATMs, there's food, there's drink, there's the whole shebang. And then now we've set up a couple of times. We've just had an incredible experience. I think we had over 155 tables yesterday, which is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it's definitely good. I mean, it's kind of an old school vibe, because all the shows used to be in the mall back in the 90s. And I used to go to them all the time. And now I'm lucky enough to have a shop inside the mall. And it just makes sense to, try and bring some nostalgia back into the hobby and get a bunch of people in there and, give them what they're used to.
It's funny that he said that it seems like an old school vibe because your show compared to a lot of shows that we typically go to seems very fresh, and a lot of the people setting up are young, and a lot of the people you see wandering around and perusing the vendor space are young people. So, and I get it, it does have like that nostalgic vibe to it with the mall show, but your show is very well done, and I wouldn't say that it's so cool. From the first time we walked it, and then I hadn't been back out there for like a few months to this time when we set up, the growth in the show is incredible too.
Well, there's a lot of awesome people that I'm fortunate to know, and they're willing to help out, and all three of you guys are included in that. And people share it around, people hear about it. We obviously do what we can with advertising and whatnot. But I mean, we have people come from Detroit and Chicago and Fort Wayne, and, Gene comes from Canton every other month. And we've had guys come from Atlanta and Louisville, and they just come from everywhere because you want to go to a show that has good people, that have a good selection of stuff, that are willing to make deals, that, treat people right and aren't all salty. And, that's definitely what we try to provide. So
I know the last time, maybe it was a couple shows ago, and I went over and I told you that you had a group of guys who came in from Louisville, and they took 8 tables, 10 tables, and they were buying from everybody. And I just remember thinking how fresh that was for people who were there, for the kids who were trying to get liquid, for the people who need to sell something. It kept the cash flowing, and it kept things moving at the show. One thing that Courtney recognized when she was out at Burbank a few weeks ago was they had people set up just buying. So on any given day, even if you were out of cash, you could go flip some cards, get some money, and be right back in the game. And so I think having a nice selection of vendors and dealers who are willing to work, buy, sell, trade, up and down, I think makes for a great experience.
Absolutely.
Ajax saw Austin put it's every month. So it is every month. You try to do your show the last weekend, right? Or it's this last weekend of every month, correct?
Fourth Saturday of every month.
Okay, so the fourth Saturday. And he's from the Kalamazoo area. He goes to the Kalamazoo Shipshawana. So he wants some fresh items. And I do want to speak on that because we've been going, well, personally, I've been going to the Lansing show since it was in prior to the TJ Maxx. Remember when it was in that old TJ Maxx, and then before was into that card store that had like 25 tables. So it expanded from there. But every month there's new cards. I had people that usually just hang out on the west side of Michigan come to the Lansing show and said, there's so many like Pokemon dealers here that I haven't this is the most Pokemon dealers I've seen. And they're always at the West car shows and they say no one has Pokemon. So if you're interested even in non-sports like TCG stuff, there's a ton of it at this show.
There was a lot. I was shocked because usually, so I collect Stranger Things cards, and I know I like to look at some of the non-sports cards. Obviously, we were ripping non-sports cards at this show, and I walked around. There were people with Stranger Things cards. There were people with the new Star Wars cards. There were people with, Dragon Ball, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon. So it was like a wide range of just, not only sports cards. There was tons of sports cards. Don't get me wrong, tons and tons of sports cards. But there was a huge mix. In comic books, I saw a lot of comic books too. And at local card shows, you don't see that a lot. So it was cool.
And Dennis,
let's not forget the Funko Pops too.
I was gonna say,
oh my God, were there Funko Pops everywhere?
So many Funko Pops.
You walk into your store. I asked you when I got there. I was like, "You're cornering the market of Funko Pops because they're just everywhere." And it's nice to see. I bet those sell really well with some of the collectors there.
Funko Pops are killing it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I collect all kinds of different stuff. I like Funko Pops. I played Magic the Gathering when it first came out. I like Pokemon and all that. And I want all the people in my area or wherever that, hey, I don't really do much in sports cards, or I only collect Pokemon, or I only do Funko, or I do whatever. There's 155 dealers that are there. There's 20 or 30 of them that have the kind of stuff that you collect no matter what it is. And you can come out, you can have a good time, you can meet some new people. I didn't know any of you guys 6 months ago. Really. I mean, I knew the name and I knew your faces, but we started talking. We realized we have a lot in common. We have common interests and have the same philosophy on a lot of things. And, you guys are great. And that all happened because of the card show. I've met most of my best friends in life going to card shows. So just because you might think it might not be there, there's a lot more to offer at every card show than just cards.
110%. I remember Dennis and I were standing there and he looked at me and he goes, Jeremy, you are absolutely fucking beautiful for a man. And I said, you know what? I said, you are too, man. Yeah, exactly. And I said, you know what? I might have a point on you in the looks department, but you've got a few points on me in the intelligence department. And it was like, we just started vibing. And next thing you know, we brought my kid Manny along. And then me and Dennis are both fond of intelligent, beautiful women. And Courtney's involved. And next thing you know, we're in Lansing on a monthly basis, taking over the world.
Right.
Jerry often speaks about how cards are fun. We collect them, but the relationships that we've developed within the space are worth more than the cards even are. And I agree with you. Some of our very best friends now are hobby-related friends that we met through collecting.
Do we even have non-hobby related friends?
I think they're just our family members. Just family.
Psychopaths, people that aren't into cards.
Exactly.
Who doesn't like cards?
No,
even if you don't like cards, man, you have to respect the hustle. Like, I spent $100. I bought this card. I sold it for $200. Like, how can you not get behind that?
Mm-hmm.
Blows my mind.
There's a couple kids at your show that I love. I see them every month. And Jeremy and I were talking about it. It seems like there's a couple kids that save up on their allowance, their monthly allowance, and they'll come with like 4 or 5 cards. And at the end of the show, they'll come back to us and say, look what my case looks like now. And it's just full of cards. And I'm like, I need you to teach me what you're doing because you're killing the game right now.
There's 2 kids that come to that show every month.
Mm-hmm.
And they come to my table, and back when we were in TJ Maxx, and I watched this kid take like a $10 Jonathan Taylor, and he came back to me at the end of the show with a Kobe auto and like a 101 John Elway patch auto and all that stuff. And I'm like, look, dude, you need to stop doing everything else that you're doing and do this.
Yes.
Like, you have a gift. And if you want to come to the show, I'll start you off with $100 card instead of a $10 card, and you can bring me back a Honus by the end of this thing. This is ridiculous.
Kid has the most rare card ever, and he's just like, yeah, I just traded this for like, you know.
Right. Yeah. I traded in my pack of
third-year Tom
89
Brady.
Donruss.
And here's the thing: you could arm Manny with $5,000 and 3 beautiful slabs, and he'll finish the day with $12 and an empty 20-ounce of Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
That's messed up. But I had a good time. I had a good time doing
That's
it.
because he took
That's
his $5,000
true.
card
He's also
and
got
gave it to
4
that
empty
kid.
pizza boxes and a half-eaten box of donuts. But
That's
you know,
messed up.
And you see that kid, he's like, hey, where'd you get your card? He's like, I don't know, that guy was like crying with the pizza box over there.
Exactly.
He just traded it to me for this like pack of, you know, Topps baseball from '93. I don't know why he did that.
Somewhere there's some dad sitting with his arm around his kid, like, just, you see that guy in the upper right-hand corner, man? Don't be him. Don't be him, son.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dennis, when I see kids with Zion cases, I walk away. And they laugh about it, but they intimidate me. Kids with the cases intimidate me.
there's a
That's
lot of those
Steven.
kids, man. A lot. And they, you know, Matt and JoJo and Brody and a lot of the other kids that come to the show that started out as those kids, and now those kids have more money than all of us put together, and they show up and they buy, and they're exceedingly intelligent kids, and they know what time it is. Their pulse of the hobby is great. They've got all their shit together, and there's 50 of those kids that come to the show.
There's so many. They're everywhere.
And they're all cool to deal with. They're respectful. You know, hey, if you want to make some money, I'm a buyer at $500.
Mm-hmm.
But the last comp is $585, and that's a fair price. And you're priced at $1,100. Like, you know, if you want to make some money today, I'm your guy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of guys there that are willing to make deals and make a concession to make a good sale. And, you know, the guys that aren't, you know,
I feel like those guys
those
are
are
starting to
usually
fall
the
off.
guys that rotate out, and we get new guys.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree, because like everything, like we had a dealer next to us, new card shop owner in Mount Pleasant. I forgot their name but there was their first time setting up, and they didn't know any card shows in Michigan. This is kind of props to you about your marketing, because they were like, this is the only one I really know, and this is a great show. They were like, is it like this every time? Because we sold out. There's this kid from YouTube that was there, just wiped out one of our whole showcases.
Was that the guys with the Pokemon to our right? If you were facing, like if you're facing
kitty corner from us.
Because the guys next to us were the whole time we're having like, it was like a party at their table. I loved the energy. They were just like so hyped. Every time someone would show them a card, they'd like, yeah, like it was the greatest card they ever saw. I'm like, this is the energy. This is what I am here for. It was fun.
Mm-hmm. It kind of reminded
It was truly like, it was a vibe. Everywhere you went, it was a vibe. People were in a good mood. And I think, like what Dennis said too, that is catching, is like the people who don't adjust to the market and, you know, price things fairly or have a little bit of showmanship or willing to engage with people eventually are going to just either stop coming of their own accord or probably be asked to not come back.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
I like how he said, yeah, like I'm not, it's not that I'm not willing.
Yeah.
Hey, it's in there. Trust me.
He's got a couple.
I've dropped the hammer on a lot of people before, but never at the show.
That's awesome.
That doesn't surprise me about
somebody that puts on shows. What do you look for in a vendor? Let's say Austin or Will or one of these guys that are listening in, Evan, want to set up. What do you look for in somebody to be a vendor that can provide value to the show?
I mean, I like to know what kind of stuff you have, you know, and a lot of people ask me, well, what does it take to be successful at the show? Which is a great question and one that everybody should ask. And the Lansing show, for the most part, is a mid-tier market. You know, if you have $20 to $200 cards and they're priced accordingly and they're priced fairly, you're going to have a great show, period. You know, if you fill up your showcase with, you know, PSA 10 Jordan rookies, you know, you're going to get a lot of oohs and ahs and your table is going to be full, but your pockets are going to be empty because nobody's dropping 200 grand at that show.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a bunch of dollar box guys. There's $5 bargain bin guys. You know, there's the high end kids like Matt and JoJo and Brody and all that stuff that will buy the $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 cards, but you have to have your stuff priced accordingly. Mm-hmm. And that's just the number one rule. No one is overpaying for sports cards right now. The market is down. It's not, well, I think Zion's going to come back and he's going to do great. Okay, no one's saying that right now. They're just like, I'll buy it, but I'm buying it at my price.
It reminds me of like the rainbow SpongeBob. Nobody cares what you think about Zion.
Right.
Hey, there's your next meme right there.
Yeah.
No, I like what you said, how you like you're looking at, you want to know what they have, right? The type of cards they have and the kind of person they are to come to your show to be a dealer. Because there's cards.
I've talked to all of them. Yeah. And it's important that, you know, you have a good attitude towards the hobby, towards people, you know, how you're sending messages, you know, how you're responding to messages, how you just interact as a person. And, you know, 95% of the dealers that we have, I think, are, I mean, truly awesome. You know, 4% of them are, you know, they're all right. It just depends. And then there's always the 1%er.
Yeah, the 1% that doesn't come back. They'll rotate. They'll come back.
Not usually, no.
Yeah.
No,
I do.
They're going to be salty no matter what.
Exactly.
Can't make everyone happy, right? You're not ice cream.
Yeah,
it's true.
We had a dealer. I had a dealer interaction. This is my first one, not at your show, but at a different show. He was selling a PSA 9 Jason Tatum silver. And the last comp was 900, and he was asking 1,300. And I showed him the last comp. I was like, "Are you any wiggle room? Like, I'm trying to be as nice as possible. Like, any wiggle room, you're a little high." He was like, "Go find another one. Get out of here. Go find another one. If you don't like this, don't buy it." He's like, "He's going to be a future MVP. They're going to the championship. Go find it." I was like, "Okay." I looked on eBay. I was like, "Here's one right here. I could go buy right now." And I walked away. And you don't have those type of dealers, but I have encountered some like that.
I did a deal at your show where I pulled out 4 cards from a dealer, and I'm like, what's the best you could do on this? And then they gave me a price. And then I'm like, so I was like standing there for a second, and then they took another $50 off, and they're like, "We'll do that." And I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, I can't say no, but you just keep taking money off of this deal. I was gonna do it at the other price, but this
just
would be
sat
better.
there longer.
If I just stood there just a minute longer, maybe they'd take more.
Right.
It was great. And I looked later, and I feel like the price I got the cards that I wanted was a fair price. So it was great. And you said something else that I thought was really important about your dealers, because Jeremy made a good point. He's like, what should these people know about your show if they're going to sub? It's not just your show. And it was a really, really good point where you talked about knowing the market. If you're setting up at a show and you have no idea what the market's like, and you don't ask the promoter, and you don't ask the other vendors, and you show up and you don't have a good show, you really have no one to blame but yourself.
Yep. I want to take some of the blame for me not preparing you for what you're walking into. And I try and do that if asked. And I don't want to be, I try not to be Sheldon Cooper and tell you my opinions on everything.
Jeremy, that was the reference there. Jeremy did not get.
But I've
it
watched that
is
show a
building
lot of
people.
times, so I got them all. I'll pass them down to you. We're also need to talk about you not watching Star Wars because that's some horse shit. But
Or Stranger Things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want everyone to be educated. I want everyone to have a good show. I want everyone to have the vibe and have a good time and meet new people and interact and do all that stuff if that's what they want to do. You know, if you're too introverted to be all happy and go lucky and just price your stuff right and still have a good time, that's fine too. But I want everybody to be successful. I want everybody to come back. I want everybody to tell all their friends and have a good time. And, you know, I meet 100 new people every show. And I mean, it's awesome.
I believe you do. I feel like you do a lot to set people up for success. Unfortunately, I think some people just don't put in the legwork themselves. And by no means are we full-time dealers. This is truly hobby for us, and we try to treat it with the utmost respect and give it best effort. And if we went to a show, we try to conduct ourselves or set up what we'd like to see at a show. So for us, there's always this obsessed with excellence sort of mentality. Like, okay, we did this show. Let's recap. What more can we do? How can we do things? That didn't work. This worked. Hey, maybe we adjust the cards that we bring. So when I hear people complain at any show, I get a little annoyed or frustrated because oftentimes there's so much more you as a vendor can do to control the outcome of your destiny. But it's really easy just to be lazy and be like, oh, the foot traffic wasn't there or whatever the case may be. Because we've gone to shows where the foot traffic's terrible, but if we have stuff priced to move and we're willing to engage and stand up and talk with people and act like we're excited to be there, that goes a long way as opposed to being standoffish and having your stuff, 2, 3, 4, 5x comps or not even priced at all.
Right. And I don't think that there's not really any of that at the show. I think everybody is, they understand, hey, I didn't bring the right stuff today. Everybody was looking for this guy, that guy, whoever. And I only have one table, so I'm limited in the amount of stuff that I bring. I didn't bring the right stuff. Okay. And that does happen. I want everybody to, have a good time. And, if you're watching what's going on in the sports world, who's going to be hot. Who everybody's going to want. If you don't have those guys, then it's kind of a hit or miss game. But there's a lot of guys that really have their shit together that come and do the show and have a good time. And all the new people that always come, they're very happy with, the layout and, the table location. I hear that sometimes, and it just comes down to if you have the right stuff and it's priced right, it doesn't matter if you're set up in the bathroom, they're going to find you.
Exactly.
So,
well, that's funny you said that because I went to the bathroom and that little hallway, there's people doing trades in that hallway. I was like, dang, you're right. They will find you and do some trades into the bathroom. So
you've been in that stall for about 30 minutes, buddy. What do you got going on in there? You got a case?
It's like, I got to pay for these cards somehow.
Exactly. I just traded for some pizza. Leave me alone. No, what I like, though, like you said, is the table spacing, too. You get some of these shows where you're like this, trying to walk through an aisle. The spacing, and like you have the plethora, I should say.
Plethora.
I definitely said that wrong, and I knew Courtney was going to say something. But you have like the big, I don't even want to say it, but the spacing is great.
It is. And that's another thing, too, is the spacing is really good. And I went live and I was like walking around. And there were times, even though there is plenty of room, like for people to walk 3 wide in between the tables, where there were so many people like doing deals and like looking, the foot traffic was so like thick that I still couldn't even get through. And that is really, that's what I like to see at a show. I want to see groups of people. I want it to be a little hard to get through the crowds because there's so many people walking around. And that was definitely the case at your show.
I just think location too is awesome because even if you want to get out and get a breath of fresh air, Court, how many times have we stopped gone, and there's every restaurant that you could imagine within a 3 to 5 minute drive where you can break free from the show, clear your head, get a bite to eat, and then come back and spend some money or do whatever it is you got to get done.
Well, Kenny and Ashley stopped by from TNT, stopped by our table, watched us rip some cards, went and got lunch, came back, watched us rip some more cards, picked up the cards that we were ripping and took them. And they spent like the whole day there, but they kept going in and out. They wandered down to some of the stores in the mall, and then they came back. And that's like, it makes it like a whole, like an event, like a whole day. You can like, hey, I'm going to go to the card show. We're going to go to the mall. We're going to go out to eat. Maybe we'll go watch Cocaine Bear at the theater down the road afterwards. It's going to be a good day.
You know, Dennis pretty much owns that mall. He needs to get more stores in there to get more foot traffic so it could build on it. But I bet you're the only foot traffic in that mall, right? Currently, it seems like, which is great, right?
Well, every fourth Saturday, I put a few people in there. That's for sure.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Well, I used to train at the JC Penney's there. I used to train stylists at the JC Penney's there. So that place is doing okay because it was pretty busy.
Dennis, let me ask you a serious question. When the show wrapped up yesterday and you got done coming down from your high, from everybody telling you how awesome you are, how great the show is, knowing that you're handsome and intelligent, did you go to the movie theater and watch Cocaine Bear?
I didn't, only because I have a 11-year-old daughter. But we did talk about that today, actually, because I wanted to go to the movies. So
okay, so you have no right to talk about Star Wars or Stranger Things or any of that stuff until you see Cocaine Bear.
Are you telling me the Elizabeth Banks movie Cocaine Bear is worth watching?
It is absolutely worth watching.
Really?
It was so
fantastic.
Good. I
find that so hard to believe.
It was so, if you like ridiculous, funny, gory movies that maybe have a little bit of a jump scare and are like also hilarious, this is it.
All right.
I'm telling you.
I do like all of those things.
It was so ridiculously gory. And like, I didn't know what to expect, but it was so much more than what I was anticipating.
Yeah, don't listen to anything Jeremy says about like movies that are good, but you can listen to Courtney. Because Jeremy has no taste in music or movies.
Well, he hasn't seen Star Wars, so
yeah, he doesn't like any of like the '90s comedies. He
doesn't like he doesn't like fantasy movies. He doesn't like sci-fi at all. Like he doesn't like fantasy or sci-fi, and he doesn't like So like
keep going. What doesn't he like?
He doesn't like a lot of stuff. But to be fair to Jeremy, like those 90s like Jim Carrey movies, maybe the first one was funny, but these guys, they play the same character over and over and over. And after a while, it does get boring. Like how many times can you watch Jim Carrey talk with his ass before you're like, okay, like maybe get a new
all the time.
Well, so what is your favorite movie of all time? That's an important question.
Oh, he's gonna have a hard time picking this. It's got to be The Gentleman, right?
I think The Gentleman right now would be my favorite movie of all time.
Okay.
It's a Guy Ritchie flick with Matthew McConaughey. And then I like... Yeah.
Yes, Colin Farrell, yeah.
I like... What the hell is this? Go away, Matt.
He eats his steak like a hockey puck.
So, Manuel, talk to me about the show yesterday.
You want to change the subject so bad.
I don't want to change the subject. We can talk about my steak. I eat filet well done. I'm a man of taste. I don't want to eat a fucking raw animal. I don't care.
My favorite movie, in case anyone's wondering, is another Ray Liotta movie, and it's Goodfellas. That's my favorite movie.
Yeah, it's my 7th favorite movie, so that's
7th favorite. Good. All right.
That's
the top movie. 10. It's fantastic. Yeah.
What's yours? What's your favorite movie?
What's your number one favorite movie?
It's Pulp Fiction and Die Hard.
So good. So did you hear about Bruce Willis?
He's not doing good.
No, he's got dementia. That was a bummer.
Yeah, I've had the Pulp Fiction wallet as my wallet since 1994.
Yes,
that's awesome. That is so cool. The Pulp Fiction is my second favorite movie.
It's an absolute masterpiece.
Die Hard's my favorite Christmas movie. So
I totally agree.
It's
the best Christmas movie.
We sat our teenagers down to watch it, and they're like, "All right, guys, we're gonna watch a Christmas movie," and they're like, "Oh, come on, can't we watch something else?" And they got like half an hour in, and like, "So where's the Christmas part of this?" And you're like,
Like it's on
"Pay
Christmas.
attention, Steven. This is Christmas."
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
Right. My cousin has an ornament that says "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker," and it's just it's Bruce Willis like climbing through a vent.
Yeah. That sounds
That's
awesome.
hanging on her tree. So
Oh, that's funny.
So Manny,
Right.
as
Manny,
yesterday,
what's yours
as we,
like? What's
yeah,
your favorite
what's your
movie?
favorite movie?
oh yeah,
The Town. I'm a big The Town, like
Great
Robert.
movie.
Yeah. I'm a big like mobster type movie. I love those.
I agree.
Same.
I love
Obviously,
those
my favorite
movies.
movie is Goodfellas.
Yeah. So Jeremy, you're just the odd duck.
No, he loves gangster mob movies. That's
Well,
his favorite.
Yeah.
The Gentleman is kind of a gangster movie.
It
Yeah,
is.
true.
It
Okay.
is. He loves mafia movies. Like that's probably the one thing where I think he's probably seen every single mafia movie ever made. Like that's his favorite. He
Mhm.
likes stuff like The Kingsman and The Gentleman and what was the one with your guy Tom Hardy? Anything with Tom Hardy. He's in love with Tom Hardy.
phenomenal actor, damn good actor, right there.
If Tom Hardy came to my house and he was like, "Jeremy, I'm going to take you away from all this," Jeremy would be like, "Bye, Courtney."
So you have a hall pass for like Brad Pitt or something, and his hall pass is Tom Hardy.
Yes. It might
He's
even be
thinking
Brad
about it.
Pitt. He's too much of an alcoholic.
Yeah,
Allegedly.
that's all.
I'm good with that. I'm comfortable in my own skin.
So I did want to tell you because we for yesterday's show, Courtney bought all this equipment. We were going to plan on trying to do a live show this right? We couldn't do that with how busy it was.
It's so busy.
We need extra people because we want to try to do a live show at the show and kind of grab like dealers or people like JoJo and all them to kind of do an interview of what they're buying and stuff like that, kind of informative. Sure. So that's the future. But it's a good thing because we didn't have time to actually sit down and do a show. I did want to bring that up because that's kind of what we were telling people coming up to the show. We were going to do a live podcast, and they're probably like, "Where the hell is the live podcast?" Well, it was busy. Jeremy was buying. Jeremy was running off, buying, coming back saying, I need cards. I'm going to do a trade. I'm going to do a trade. He was a kid.
He came running up to me. He's like, "Courtney, give me all the cash." Like literally, that's what he said. He comes running up. He's pulling cards out of the case, and then he's like, "Give me all the cash." So I'm like digging through my purse. I'm just like handing him like wads of cash, and then he leaves, and I don't see him again for a while. And then he comes back. He's
Your
like,
boy was cooking.
He's like,
Your boy was cooking.
He had a blast. He was like a kid in a candy store at that
Forgot
show.
all about the show.
No, he was doing the show.
Forgot about the podcast, doing a live podcast. He was busy.
Oh, Manny, tread lightly. I don't know how many times I had to tell you to please remind you to go do the social media. Your one responsibility that you were supposed to do, and you're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm too busy. I didn't do it."
He reminded me once, and this is after he came back for a 2 hours, wherever he was, comes back with like 10 different cards. And then he's like, "Where have you been? Why aren't you doing content?" It's fine. I understand.
Did you lose that bid?
Yeah.
I lost.
I got a notification on eBay that you got outbid, and then
sorry. Oh God, I thought that was a steal. I thought I was getting it. Oh well.
Who do you?
I was going for the P. Will Nebula 101. Sorry.
I knew that was your. So their PC main PC is P. Will Patrick Williams. Who's your guy? Who's your guy?
Well, as you know, anybody who knows me, every single day of my life, I wear Falcons or Braves. So Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, which, that one hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Ozzy Albies. So, but
All right. Well, that's
Ridley's got T-Law now, so it's looking up.
Mm-hmm. Ozzy Albies is so underrated because of Acuna.
Yeah, his stuff's free.
Yeah.
Austin Riley stuff is free too.
Oh yeah. Everyone wants to bank on Acuna, which he's been injury prone the last couple of years, right?
He had a super down year last year.
Yeah.
And his stuff is still 10 times more than Albies.
Yeah. How do you feel about Dansby Swanson leaving to the Cubs, right? Your Cubs?
Yeah. I
Jeremy?
mean, Dansby's great defender. His bat's decent, but for that kind of money, I mean, you can't keep everybody. And I'm much happier that we kept Austin Riley.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's got an absolute cannon for an arm. I
Mhm.
wish he would change his number to 15 so he could be AR-15 because that would be amazing.
That'd be sweet.
But it's fine.
you need to talk to his marketing team.
I really do, because that would be an awesome nickname, and he would sell millions of T-shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a question from Jacob. Says, does your show have any mid high end buyers who buy 500 plus?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
lots of them.
You have that, and you have people like you said walking around that are willing to buy out tables at some point. So
Absolutely, I want to buy out tables. If I can have more than 5 minutes to myself, I want to go around and buy out tables. You know, you guys would buy out tables. Matt, JoJo, Brody, Braden, Eric, yeah, tons of them.
For sure.
TNT's there every month walking the show, buying for the repack product, buying every BGS 9.5 and above, PSA 10, and SGC 10. As long as it's above $200, they're buying.
Yep.
That's the only request. If TNT ever wants to set up, that you keep them as far away from Jeremy as possible.
Yeah, we don't need that competition.
Yeah, we don't need that open wallet competition. We had
battling back and forth from tables, shouting. Actually, no. I rise to that challenge. Set them right next to us. I'll be like chirping at them across the table. I'm like, you can't even pay for that one. You don't even know. They came to us first. You like apples? How do you like them apples?
Yeah. You'll start a war. Courtney be like, they're paying at 80, we're paying at 70 or 90 here. Just get them over here.
Yeah, no, Jacob, it's a good show. If you've got a couple of bigger cards, you want to move them and get some cash to go play, definitely can happen at this show. And I forget the guy. I did a deal with him. I bought a T-Law at the end of the show, like 10 minutes after closing time. He had 6 or 7 showcases of just absolute heat. Absolute. And he had a couple that were, mid 5-figure cards, just
That's
chilling.
probably
Pretty
Brian.
cool to look at. Okay. He was wearing Michigan State gear.
It's Brian.
It's Brian.
I like how you just know people.
Yeah, you know exactly who he's talking about. I'm starting to realize that the show's growing too, because Jeremy, you kind of brought it up initially, was how you said people will come in, have one table, and they bring something and it doesn't work. That happened to Jeremy and I. We brought in soccer, and Jeremy and I love to buy and sell soccer. We enjoy it. The first show we're going to, we didn't open the case of soccer. Now this show, I would say more people were interested in the soccer, and there's also other dealers that were willing to kind of do trades with you with the soccer. So even the soccer market, if you're into soccer, I know I didn't bring it up, is actually growing at that show.
Yep. Yeah. There's people that ask me for, Magic cards, Pokemon stuff, soccer, hockey, whatever. There was a guy that set up with nothing but lacrosse cards like a couple shows ago.
I remember that.
Yep.
I didn't even know that was a thing, but apparently it's a thing. So you learn something new every show. So
I'll tell you selfishly, yesterday, seeing the amount of TCG around there, I sold TCG. I saw TCG set up, and that's just because I'm starting to dabble and learn about it. And might be dropping an episode this week with One Bro Namath, right, Manny?
Yep.
All about TCG, but to see that at the show, to move soccer, to move baseball, football, basketball, hockey, lacrosse. It was. We don't work for Avery Shoebox, so I feel like this sounds like an infomercial. But it was a great experience and a great show, whether you're set up or you're just walking it, looking to look at cool cards.
It's hard not to be excited about like a show that is fun to go to. There's so many shows where you go and it's just like, ugh. So going to one where you have fun, and it's fun from like the entire time you're there until you leave, like to the point of you're still doing deals like after the show's over. And then I watched all the vendors at the end like fold up their tablecloths and started breaking down the chairs. Everybody was pitching in, you know, I'm like knocking my table down and bringing my chairs up. And it's so nice to see. It feels like a sense of community. It's not just like someone setting their cards on their dusty table and then leaving the second silver and then grumbling because they didn't sell anything. Everyone was like super hyped after the show.
Yep, I had the Connor TV kid that was there, who I've never heard of, but he has like 1 million subscribers on YouTube. So, like, okay,
He had that like Pokemon hat.
yeah,
on
he
it.
had like the Magikarp hat on and all that stuff, and everybody was all excited about. But that kid was there like all day. He was in my shop at like 6 o'clock at night, like 2 hours after the show, and people hang out and they do deals after the time. They sit around and trade. They come into the shop and, you know, talk and hang out. And, you know, Gene from Ohio came in, sat down for 45 minutes after the show just to, you know, BS around, because he's like, dude, I've been too busy. I haven't been able to do anything other than, you know, make deals, which is why I came here. But, you know, I want to have some time to socialize. And
I love Gene. He's
after,
such a nice guy.
yeah, I love that dude. And his kid Nick does all Pokemon stuff.
His kid is he's
super
good.
cool kid. Gene's an awesome dude. I give his kid one of my tables at Shipsy because no one can get a table there anymore. And just so they can come and do the show and we sit around and bullshit and talk about Pokemon and sports cards and all that stuff. But they're super cool dudes. Craig and Brian, you know, from the SC4 and all that. There's just a ton of awesome guys that come in and they all help out. And my back always hurts after the show. And I asked to solicit some people that I can hire out and put a thing on Facebook, and, you know, in like 3 minutes, and I'll stay and help and blah. I'm like, okay,
there you go.
Awesome. I mean,
I have a 15-year-old son that has no problem. Next time we'll make.
I have a 20-year-old nephew and his ass is working.
What's your?
You know, there's a couple. Sorry, Manny, real quick. There's a couple of things too, like every table being skirted. You know, the black gives it a very uniform look that I think is impressive, and then also the Wi-Fi at the mall is so damn good.
It's such
one thing I know Courtney, like, not really complained, but was a frustration of hers, is when she was trying to do deals in Burbank, the sketchy internet when you're talking 4 and 5 figure deals becomes an issue when you're trying to make sure that you're not overpaying. And like, you know, that last week, whatever that VFW show I went to in Royal Oak, absolutely no service. And so it brought everything to like a halt. The good internet at Lansing too.
Jeremy's lying. I cried at Burbank because I couldn't get my internet going and I was struggling. And I was jet lagged and overtired. Like, I called him up. I'm like, I'm having the worst.
For something that, I mean, every single person that buys a sports card at a show does it with their phone. They pull out their phone, they look at comps, they get on 130 point, all whatever it is that they use, and this is what it's going for. This is what I want to pay. This is what the price is, whatever. If you can't do any of that, that's a problem. You know, and it's not necessarily, you know, the person who set up's problem or the buyer's problem or the promoter's problem. It's just a problem. And there's not really a lot that you can do about it, but it definitely helps when you can, you know, when you're at the national and there's 1 billion people on the network. I mean, you can sit there for 20 minutes and it doesn't, I mean, it's frustrating for sure. And the table skirting, yesterday I had a box of about 25 of them go missing. So I didn't get all of them skirted. So I don't want to take credit for something that I fudged up yesterday, but you know, it's working on being resolved. So, but normally, yes, they're all done.
Well, what's your future plans for the show? I know we kind of briefly talked about maybe doing like a trade like somewhere where we could do a trade night, or midday or something. Because Courtney, I know Courtney and the Reckless family love trade nights, and they got me involved, and it's actually really fun. Is there any plans on doing that or expanding or anything else for the future?
I think the show, I mean, if I can get 175 in the space that I want to keep it within, that's probably about as high as I'm going to go. We've talked about adding like a comic and Funko TCG type show, like on a separate occasion, just to cater to that genre of people. As far as the trade night goes, if this is a show that people begin to travel for, then where they come in on Friday, they're already there, like Shipshewana. Nobody that does that show lives in Shipshewana except for Brad. And that's it. Everybody else comes from somewhere else. So they're all there on Friday. So you can have that. My show and my shop being in the dead nut middle of the state, it's pretty much an hour and a half from everything. So everybody can get up at, 8 o'clock in the morning, drive to the show, do the show, go home, be home the same day. So if it becomes a show that can and is traveled for, that people are coming in on Friday, sure, I would love to do that. I'd do it on Saturday too if I didn't get up at 2 o'clock in the morning every Saturday that we have a show and just want to pass out when it's over. So I'd love to do it. I like doing the trade night situations, but the trade nights at the shows that you have to travel for are always so much better just because all the people are already there.
That's such a good point.
You travel, you've been to Dallas and you go to other shows and you reference Shipshewana, what's upcoming this weekend. Do you draw inspiration from those shows, or do you go to a show and realize like, hey, I like that, I want to incorporate some form of that, or oof, that's brutal, I'm not going to bring that to my show?
I used to be a general manager at Menards for like 13 years. So every time I go anywhere, I look at all the stuff I hate and I think about what I could do to improve it or how I would improve it if it was mine, and the service and the way people act and all of those things. And Dallas is a phenomenal show. I mean, it just is. It's phenomenal. However, like the two little offshoot rooms that they have that are like the kiddie table, like that's rough, man. If you get dealt that hand, you're missing out on so much. You might have the best stuff in the world, but if you didn't make it into the big room, you're missing out on 80% of the traffic. You can only fit 50 people in those rooms, besides the tables that are in there. In the main room, you've got thousands of people, and out in the lobby, you've got guys doing trades till 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's great. And all the people there are great. I met a bunch of awesome people. I don't like the little side rooms there, but that show is, that's the show.
Is that what the side rooms, is that where they put like the newer dealers? Is that where they go until they get to the big room?
If you're not grandfathered in at this point, that's pretty much what you have. And there's a bunch of people like, sport card machines and all that stuff always does Dallas. And I went there with him, and shout out to Jason Gillespie. Love you. And they, sublet some of their tables to other people or let them share space with them. But if you end up in one of the side rooms, in my experience, you're just not very busy in there, regardless of what you have. And in the main room, and that's why I want to keep all my stuff straight down the hallway all together. I can see from one end to the other that nobody feels like they're put out on an island or separated from the community that we're trying to make there. And I feel that's about the only improvement that I could see being done for Dallas.
Yeah, we've never, us three, we've never been to Dallas. Kind of want to make
I'm going to Dallas.
Oh, you are? When are you going?
This month.
There you go. So
Well, next month, yeah.
Courtney's going to Dallas. Courtney's been to Culture Collision, Burbank, your show, Shipshawana. What am I missing?
Cleveland. I go to Steve Greenberg's show all the time.
So
Yeah, Greeny's another awesome dude. I like that dude too.
Yeah. Big Steve and Little Steve.
Yeah. I like Adam.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that dude.
Yeah. Everyone's nice. I have no.
We need to hit up Dallas, Jeremy and I. Now that Courtney's going, we got to go, Jeremy.
It's stupid. Like
I'm like I'm both excited and like terrified because I'm going by myself. So I'm already messaging my friends that I know will be out there. I'm like, hey, if I go to Dallas, can we link up? Because it's so big, it feels overwhelming.
Yeah, my whole goal going to Dallas when I went, and I did it twice, was I just don't want to have the crappiest stuff in the room. So as long as I'm not the worst guy in here, I feel like I'm doing okay.
I feel like that at every show. Every show we go to, I'm like,
that is the realest feeling. I don't think we've ever discussed that. Like, Courtney, you and I might have okay, did you look around? Okay, we don't have the shittiest stuff. Like, okay, we're okay. And not that you would ever look down at somebody, but when you're the vendor, you're just like, that people are comparing you to others.
You're like, yes. I need to step my game up. This is embarrassing. I can't handle this.
The most worst feeling I think that I ever had in my collecting experience was one year Jeremy and I went to the National, and we had brought our Zion case, and we had really good cards. I thought they were really good cards, and it was trade night, and so we're setting up and we're all excited, and four I don't know, between 10 and 14-year-old boys came by independent of one another and they flipped through our Zion case and pass. 4 in a row. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, these children think we have bad cards. Are our cards terrible? What is happening to me? And why do I care what these children think?
Yeah. When you first walk into Dallas, into the big room, and the 20 tables that are right in the front there, you walk in and there's NT logo man Ja next to an NT logo man Luca and all that stuff. I'm like, yep, I have the worst shit here for sure.
So what I'm understanding from you is that I need to make my way around to the side rooms.
100%. Get your confidence up. That's the side rooms is where you put your makeup on and get all pretty. And then you go into the big room, and then, it's, ass shaking time. That's where the magic happens, is in the big room.
That's funny that you said that, because I've never told Jeremy this, but I would have cards for sale, and I would walk the show in Lansing, and I would always come up to you and ask if you want it, if you're looking to buy, and you're always looking to buy. If you have a certain way, if you like a card, you'll hold it for a little bit, and you're thinking about buying it, but sometimes, Dennis, you'll grab the card and be like, nope, not looking to buy it. And I'm like, shit, I have bad cards today. I've never said it to you.
Here's a tip too.
It's happened to me.
That when I try to buy, if I don't know you and you come up, I'll pick, whether I want it or not, I'll pick one card out of your box.
Yeah.
And ask you what you're looking for, that I know what the value is today.
Oh yeah.
And this is a $200 card. Well, I'm looking for about $350. All right. Well, we're done here. Yeah. And then I'm good.
I didn't even make it. I didn't make it to that.
That's brilliant. That's a brilliant technique.
Yeah.
Jeremy's thing is, when he doesn't want to trade with somebody, he acts busy and then sends them through me first. So then I look at their cards and I know what we're trading for. I don't like to trade. That's not my. I'm more of I'll just buy it from you kind of gal. But I know what we're looking for. So I always have to be the buffer. I'm like, oh no, these are really great, but we're gonna pass. And this isn't what we're looking for. And
guys
then
always handle bad news better from women.
I think so. And so then if they have some stuff that I think might work, I'll take the card and I'll show it to him, and then he'll give me the look, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna pass. Or then I'm like, yeah, you know what? Just form a line right there. He's trading. He's doing the deal right now. He'll be right with you. So it's we have this silent way we work. So if you come up and you get sent to me first, you might be in trouble because I'm probably going to tell you no.
Yep.
That's funny. That's funny because Dennis does that to his nephew. I had to go talk to his nephew once about selling, and I had to wait there until he was done. And then his nephew went, "You want this?" No, I didn't even make it to the part of you asking me what the price is. It was just no. I was like, oh no.
It's
That
like
must have been
American
one of your
Idol.
first shows. You must have brought around like a real little box.
Yeah, it was. It was. I remember one that I brought that you actually were interested. It was a Juan Soto auto out of like 10, and it was like PSA like 9. It was like pop 1, and we were trying to figure out a price. And I straight up told you, I was like, I have no idea. Like, I don't. Like, you could say it's a $200 card, or you could say it's an $800 card, and we were kind of saying that. And you're like, just because there's no sales, you pass. So that was like one that you're like, you wanted it, but you just didn't. We didn't know a comp, on it. But
Yeah,
there's
and I mean, I would much rather pass on a card unless it was something that I really wanted for myself. Like if it was a Ridley, I would have been like, look, this is what I'll pay just because it's never going to get sold.
Okay.
But I would rather pass on a card than end up hosing somebody, and I don't pay 90% comps. I'm not going to lie. I do this for a living. I try to make money.
Yep.
But I'm going to tell you what I think the card's worth and what I'll pay you. And if that works for you, then great. And if it doesn't, that's cool too. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, and you're definitely not going to hurt mine.
Mm-hmm.
So, I want everybody to have a good experience and be happy and enjoy what they're doing.
That's such a good attitude to have because a lot of people don't. When you're on the other side of the table, I find that I like buying cards better as a dealer than I do walking a show because I feel like for me, sometimes I feel like the power dynamic shifts where I feel like, I see a dealer with a card and I'm like, this card is like quadruple like what it's worth. And then so you start having a conversation with the dealer and like I can tell whether or not they're going to like move on that card or not. And then I'll just move on. But if somebody comes up to my table and they're trying to sell me a card, I feel like I have a little bit more like room to have these conversations where like I'm not going to try and like negotiate a price down on somebody's card if that's their card and that's where they're at it,
Yep.
I debated on.
So I had.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
I said I debated at when we're setting up to just put we're buying at this percentage because I feel like that's the best. Like if people are coming up, they know what percentage you're buying at. If it was like a common card that's easy to move type deal, that I feel like that would be easier.
And there's a lot of people
maybe I've never tried that.
Advertise like, hey, or they bring a box from like, hey, I'm buying at 75% or 65 or 85 or whatever it is, and then right away, like, oh, all right, well, I'm looking for more than that, or if you're looking for more than 85%, then you need to get a table. But
yes.
Because nobody's buying at anything over that.
Nobody's going to pay full price if they're a dealer. That is something that I think everyone who's coming into this hobby, we should say it over and over and over. If you're going to a dealer's table and you're trying to sell a card, you're never going to get 100% of comps, and you're definitely not going to get over comps. So if you want to sell a card like that, put it on a platform, an auction house, eBay, PWCC, Golden, wherever you choose, or set up a table and have it like that, because no dealer, unless you have some insanely rare card that we'll never see again.
Patrick P. Will or Austin Riley.
Yeah, we're just not. Nobody
and
pays
everybody
100%.
knows who their guy is.
Mm-hmm.
Would I pay over comps for an Ozzy Albies, Topps 2018 black number 1 of 67? Probably. That's about it. There's not a lot.
Yeah.
So I want to just there was a bad apple yesterday, and I'm going to chalk it up to ignorance and not knowing how to act at a card show. But he came up early in the show and he bought a card from us, and then ran over like 20 minutes later to tell me, haha, you guys have your stuff so underpriced. Now I got it. And I was like, and I had explained to him earlier, like, there is no like real magic to what we do. Our recipe is buy in bulk in the off season. And that way, when it comes time to sell, it just makes it really easy. We try to haggle as little as possible. I would say like 90% of the cards that we have available for sale are like that. So I was like, cool, man. I'm glad if you can make money too, everybody wins because if we sold it at a price that's good. Explain it to him again later in the day before the end of the show. He bought another card and then came back like 10 minutes later. Like, and I'm chalking this up to maybe just not knowing better or maybe his delivery was off. But I was able to sell it for this much more than what I paid for it. And again, I was like, yeah, but I only paid like 50% of that. So like I still made my money. But don't be that guy.
Right.
Don't be that guy.
And the buy-in in bulk, like in the off season, is so underrated. It's like 101.
Mm-hmm.
Like whoever you think is going to absolutely dominate football next year, you should be buying the shit out of them right now.
Agreed.
But everybody now has moved on to baseball. Everybody. And now is the worst time to buy baseball. And the only worst time to buy baseball is in October. That's if you buy a baseball card in October, you should be banned from buying cards for at least.
My favorite thing is when Jeremy takes.
Hold on, unless you're buying my cards. If you're buying my cards, please continue to buy.
I don't understand. Like Jeremy Pena, when his stuff like went to the moon because look, the kid's great, and he may end up being the greatest. He's not going to be Babe Ruth, but whatever. But if you're buying that dude in the middle of the playoff run, you are preparing to go down hard.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
People just get so hyped about the player. They're like, oh, he's doing so good. His prices are just going to keep going up. No, they're not.
Right.
And you're going to be really sad about this.
Aaron Judge is going to hit 62 home runs. Uh-huh. And then what? And then this is going to happen. Immediately. The second he hits the home run, it's too late.
We had that same conversation about Cam Thomas recently because they were like, we got to buy now because he's going to be the next Kobe Bryant. I'm like, you know how much his went up for scoring like 40 points in like 3 games? Like, chill, right. Don't buy now. Wait.
Right. It's Jeremy Lin 20 years later.
Exactly.
Like, I watched Jeremy Lin because I'm the oldest guy on here by a long shot, I'm sure. And I watched him, and I watched his NT go for like 28 grand like that day on eBay. And I'm like, whoever this dude is, I want to sell him every card I own because this is insane.
Yeah.
And I saw one of those sell like a couple months ago, and it was like $200. Like, you can't possibly win. For every Luka, when he came out and his stuff was fairly cheap and then went to the, there's 1,000 that don't.
You're right.
Well said.
There's just so many new people in the hobby, and they see someone doing well, and they're like, I need this card. And that's it. And that's why Jeremy talks about it, and Manny, we talk about it all the time. It's like educating yourself in the space is so important, because if you're new to a space and you're out there just like emotional buying everything because you like the player, he had a good game, you're going to regret it, and then you're going to leave the space because you're going to just consistently lose money all the time on everything you buy.
But there's a million people.
It's keeping up with the Joneses. It's keeping up with the Joneses hobby style. Sorry, Dennis, go ahead. I'll shut up. I should never overtalk you.
There's a million people in this hobby, though, that want to help you. That genuinely want you to succeed, to buy the right guys, and want to help you out. And if you like Jeremy Pena or you like whoever, that's great. But there's a time frame to buy that person.
I had a whole conversation with somebody today about a product that they didn't know anything about, that they ripped a bunch of it, and now they didn't know what to do with it. And I gave them my advice on how I would handle this, and they did the exact opposite of what I said. So I'm like, well, we'll see how that pans out for you.
Right.
Hopefully it goes well, but I don't think it's gonna.
Right. I'm pretty sure this is gonna go bad.
I'm like, you are making all of the mistakes that I made when I was new in the hobby and like didn't know any better. And I'm trying to tell you not to do this.
Right.
But
And I'm not telling these people this because I'm a know-it-all and you should do what I'm saying. I'm trying to keep you from falling in the 937 manholes that I've fallen in
yes,
for doing the same thing.
yes, exactly. I'm like, you're doing the exact same thing that I did, a decade ago. So just listen. I'm telling you this out of the kindness of my heart. Like your process that you're going through right now is the opposite of what you want to do. And then they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then they call me later and they're like, so yeah, I did everything you told me not to do. I'm like, okay, well, good luck with that, I guess.
Right. Godspeed.
I tried.
So, Dennis, when's the next show?
March 25th.
March 25th.
Wonderful.
That's awesome. We can definitely go to that one too.
Yeah, we'll be going to that one.
That's right before we leave for Mint.
Yeah. So we'll do the Avery Shoebox and then the Mint.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do Dallas or Shipshawana, Dallas, Avery's, Mint, National. And then probably another Shipshawana and Avery's in between those things too. Maybe two. I don't know. There's so many shows.
Dennis, where can the fine people follow you?
We're on Instagram, Facebook, eBay, everywhere. It's all Avery's _ shoebox, pretty much everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make sure we link that in the show notes too, so they
Sure.
can easily find that for you.
Cool.
We appreciate it. I know you said your back hurts. You've been up since 2:00 in the morning. You had to help carry the show because Manny brought absolutely nothing tonight. I found him to be low energy and not very.
I had to carry all
or
Manny's
informative.
trash out of pizza boxes and donuts.
That's messed up, Jeremy. We do appreciate you. Thank you for coming on. We will be at the next show. We'll try to do the live. We need to bring some more recruits to help us in the buying and selling at the table so we're able to do the podcast. But that's the plan. Thank you for having us. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
No, you guys are awesome. I enjoy having you, and you bring a lot to the hobby, and don't let anybody give you any shit about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
With that, I hope you guys enjoyed your hobby release, and we'll talk soon. Peace.